So it has been a little while since the last time that I talked about this, so some of you might be asking yourselves the question, is Gamergate 2 still going on? And unfortunately, Gamergate 2 is still going on. But even more than that, some of you might be asking yourselves the same question that I've been finding myself. But even more than that, some of you might be asking yourselves the same question that I've been asking myself lately, and that is basically, what is up with these fucking dorks? And when I say that, I'm not really talking about the people who are concerned about the narrative manipulation that is going into some of the video games that they play, that they might like to play and enjoy. I'm actually talking about the people who are in favor of the manipulation of those narratives. And so I'm talking about some of the supporters of the so-called narrative consultant firms that are basically trying to wokeify video games, or pretty much against the will of anybody who actually consumes them. As I said previously, I really do think that some of the people who actually work in these consultancy firms, I think they really are trying to do good by video games. I think they're actually trying to make video games into a better medium. I am not of the opinion that they have any idea how to actually do that, but I do think that they are acting in good faith in wanting to do that. But the people who most vocally support them, in particular the video games media, the video games journalists, I don't think that they actually, I don't think that they share that desire. I think that they really do have an agenda that they want to push, against the will, over the dead bodies almost, of anybody who might disagree with them. And I don't think that that's going to take the medium of video games to a better place. I think it's going to take it to a much worse place. And if you have any doubt of that, just look at the way that these people conduct themselves, and then ask them if you think that that's going to take anything to a better place. And so what I'm speaking about today is the obsession that these fucking dweebs have with just insulting people. I know that might seem a little bit ironic, maybe even hypocritical, after I called them dorks and dweebs. But I'm going to get around to that in just a minute. I'm going to address that, but you got to give me a minute first. So first off, what is really the reason why these people are so obsessed with insulting people? God knows that they've done enough of it. Most famously, it seems like kind of the Battlefront game in regards to this culture war, seems to be the Stellar Blade. And I think maybe the most famous example so far of somebody using insults against video game consumers, and actually even against developers, came out of a French subsidiary of IGN, came out of IGN France, where he basically said that the developers of Stellar Blade, they have this character that they're basically using as like a glorified sex toy, and designed by somebody who looks like they've never even seen a woman. And famously, as everybody else has pointed out, not only is the lead developer of this video game married, he's married, to an absolutely gorgeous woman. The model that they scanned in order to act as the body model of this character in this video game is a real woman. She really exists. She really, there are a few enhancements, but for the most part, she really does look like that. So obviously, this insult that this guy had uttered was obviously completely off course, and IGN France had to backtrack, and IGN actually had to distance himself from this subsidiary. But the question I'm going to ask you is, how does something like that make it to print in the first place? Originating out of a publication that we are apparently supposed to believe is actually like a professional journalistic, outlet covering the subject of video games. How does something like that actually even make it to print? Ostensibly penned by somebody who we're supposed to believe is a professional. Basically, what it comes down to is a lack of standards in regard to professional conduct. Nobody in that organization took a look at that article. Nobody in that organization took a look at the draft of that article that was submitted and said, hey, you know what? This doesn't this doesn't meet our standards. Somebody made the decision that this article wherein the guy just insulted the guy who had developed this game that apparently he was upset about, just decided that he could behave like that. Nobody in that publication had basically, the most basic asshole filter. And so this guy was allowed to act like an asshole in print in their publication. And why exactly was that? Well, I think what it comes down to is when you take a look at these people, there's a background that they come from. First of all, there's a profile that they fit, and basically they're narcissists. That actually kind of ties in with the background that they come from, where basically, yeah, okay, fair enough, they're nerds. They were high school nerds. And I can actually speak to this from experience because I grew up as a nerd in high school. And one of the things that I think that you come to understand is that one of the social currencies of being involved, of belonging to that particular subculture, whether willingly or unwillingly, is that one of the social currencies comes down to basically, who can insult you and you can't insult them back. And if you're a nerd and you're in that particular subculture, you pretty much understand that there is a lot of people above you who can insult you and you can't insult them back. And in that particular case, in the case of a lot of them, it's something so simple as, well, you can't insult them back because they might just be pissed at you. They might just stuff you in a locker or something like that. It's not anything that ever should happen or ever should have happened, but unfortunately, hey, it did happen to a lot of people. It actually never happened to me. I never got stuffed in a locker. I did deliberately put myself in a locker once just to see if I could fit in. It was really more of just kind of like just an experiment, just playing around than anything else. But I never did myself get stuffed in a locker. But I know people who went through experiences very, very similar to that. So I understand the kind of person that this is, and so they kind of become fixated on this idea of becoming somebody who can insult other people, and then you can't insult them back. And for these people, a lot of them, what did it basically translate into? Well, it translated into online communities. And so it becomes an interesting little detail where now you see a lot of this behavior coming out of people who are so-called community managers in the video game industry. And to me, it is really weird that an industry would think that they need to hire people to manage their customer base, to manage the community of their customers. That seems a little bit backwards to me, so far as I'm concerned. The customer base should more rightly be managing you. I mean, you are the one who's trying to produce something that you want them to buy. You want them to reward you for whatever work it is that you're doing by giving you money. So really, when it comes down to it, one way or the other, yeah, the customer base is actually more likely and more properly going to be the one that is managing you. So let's get back to the point here. Because when they ascend into these different positions, it turns out that they actually do obtain an awful lot of power. Real power that they don't really necessarily know how to use for anything other than like their own edification. And so now they are literally the person that they can insult anybody that they wish, and nobody can insult them back because it's so simple as this. If they insult you back, you can ban them. You can kick them out. So that they can't participate in your Discord, or they can't even play your video game on your server or anything like that. You can't do anything like that. You have the power, you have the power to stop dead in its tracks any kind of response to any kind of insult that you offer them. And so then you end up in this situation where you have all of these people who really, their impulse to insult people, all of these insults that they tend to like. I mean, they like to call people geeks, dorks, goobers. Incels is one that these people absolutely love, and to me, that's kind of amusing because a lot of the time when you take a look at what these people are, it's not exactly like they're rolling in it themselves. No shot. Absolutely no chance of it. But they do this now because that ability to levy those kinds of insults against people without any kind of repudiation even being possible, it kind of fits into a power fantasy that they have always had ever since they were some teenager being picked on by a jock in high school, which, by the way, isn't right. But you know what? It doesn't really make what they're doing now. Doesn't make them right either. But the other thing that you have to keep in mind, I mean, let's circle back to this, is that a lot of these people are obviously narcissists. And when you've actually dealt with narcissists for long enough, you understand that the worst possible thing that a narcissist thinks that you can do to them is insult them. In the mind of a narcissist, being insulted is the most devastating thing that can possibly happen to you. And it's also something in the mind of a narcissist that they think makes them extremely powerful. As anybody who's ever dealt with a narcissist also knows, the one thing that a narcissist wants more than anything else is power over other people. And so now you have all of these different people who have managed to kind of insulate themselves from what should be the consequences of levying insults like that, against their customer base. Whether you are trying to produce a video game that you're going to try to sell to the public, whether or not you're producing a publication that writes about video games and you need the video game paying public to log onto your website to read about video games. If these people were not being protected, they simply would not be around. And so ultimately, what is the solution to this kind of behavior then? Well, the one thing that maybe people could do that would advance their cause, at least in terms of the video gaming media more than anything else, is to just simply stop rewarding these people with clicks. Stop giving advertisers the false impression that this kind of content is something in demand. They would require for a lot of YouTube creators, to forego, that jump into the algorithm. When a story comes out and it's sensational and somebody's mad because person X said thing Y, and now everybody's mad about it, and everybody wants to jump on YouTube and talk about it, and everybody wants to jump on YouTube and listen to somebody talk about it, and you end up listening to the same 20, 25, 30 people, God knows how many people, all saying the exact same thing about it. Really, the best thing that anybody could do about it is to just stop giving these dorks any kind of attention. Just stop giving them attention. So in this video, I haven't mentioned any of them by name. I guess I did mention a publication by name. I didn't mention the journalist by name. But as I continue to kind of explore this topic in future podcasts, I think I'm going to make a point of not giving these weirdos, not giving these losers any oxygen, by mentioning their name anyway. That's... It might have an impact. It might not. I'm just a guy, sitting in a hockey arena with a $5 tripod, with a $20 microphone, my one little bitty Canon. I don't necessarily think that I'm going to stand for all these other people that are basically trying to milk this algorithm for views, trying to milk the controversy of the day for views. But hey, crazier things could happen.